time to load. Reload 357 Magnum. Got my Hornady dies, my Lee Precision factory crimp die. Today, I'm loading Speer 158 grain soft point, jacketed. Got some reclaimed brass. Just gonna do 30 rounds today. Be using Federal's gold medal GM 200 Magnum, which is a small pistol Magnum primer. I got an old jug of Hodgdon HP 38 I'm going to use. Again, 357 Magnum. Let's clean the space a little bit. Pull up my data. Hodgdon powders. .2. Start with the sizing die. And an expander die. Sizing, I'll run all the way to the top with the ram. Wind it down until I feel the ram touch the die, and then I'll back out a quarter turn or so. Tighten it down by hand. I'll mess with the expander here in a minute. These Hornady dies, you don't need case lube because of carbide, so I can run my 357 right through there. No need for dye or for lube for the dye. I'll run it to the top of the expander with the case in the ram, and then I'll turn the expander die down until I can feel resistance. I'll back it out a little bit, and then you just ease it in little bit by little bit. Oh, Maximus. So until you start to feel resistance, there's not a whole lot to do. And then I find you don't want to expand too much. All you're trying to do is get that bullet to seat. It's actually almost right where I want it. I'm going to do a tiny bit more. Just enough so you don't shear that jacket off. Again, put the bullet in the case. You don't want to fall down too far in, but just enough to sit in there so you're not shearing that jacket. Alright, we're going to prime these cases as we do this step. So I'm getting out my RCBS Universal Priming Tool, this tube, and this tray. Get you a view of this here. The tray has these little ridges to help get your primers seated the correct direction. I'm going to take 30 of these, pop them down in the case. You'll see they're all wonky. As you shake it around, they'll flip the correct direction for you. You put the lid on, turn it over. Now I can put them in the tube. And we're going to do 30 of these. Shouldn't take very long. If you're new to reloading or you're trying to learn how to do it, I do recommend a setup like this. RCBS, single station prime. These presses work really well for me, at least. Real simple to learn on. I've got my 30 primers in here. I'm using a pencil just to push this last one down nice and soft. Once I know it's in the tube, we're good to go. Put it in universal priming station. Pull the pin. Now all of those are sitting down in there. So now as I'm going up and ramming into the expander, I can prime each case as I go as well. So put my primed cases here, but now the step is 1, 2, and 3 all in a row. I've sized it. I've expanded it. And I've primed it all in one. Easy. Let me show you a crazy case. So let's see what that sizing die really does. See, this one's kind of squished. I must have stepped on it on the range. So now what I'll do, same, run it up through the sizing die. Squishes it to form. It's not been primed yet. Not been expanded. Ram it. All in one step. The case is ready to go. So when I'm moving fast, I can get through 30 of these in just a couple of minutes. It's just a matter of making sure things like primer are seated well. These 357 will go into my lever action rifle. And I intend to hunt wild hog with those if I can find them. Sneak up on those boogers. Again, this is a multi-step process, but having two presses and using the dies in sequential order like this, sizing die, expanding die, and seating the primer all in one, saves me a lot of time. If you get really into reloading or you're doing a lot of ammunition and want to save extra time and steps, you can get something more robust like a progressive press. The progressive just means once you have it set up, all you have to do is either turn it on or crank it, and for every crank you have a solid piece of ammo completed if all your components are in right. Size, expand, prime. Almost halfway there. you want to learn more, subscribe, check out my other content. There's a lot of shooting content on my page too, but you can't do that through live, so you'll have to go check out the page. If you want to see some of this ammo that I reload get tested, subscribe to the page and you will see that in upcoming videos. Alright, 16. Almost there. Alright, we have our 357 shells getting sized, expanded, and primed. There's another. What you're looking for, if you don't know, once you've sat your primer, you can typically feel it out. Like that one's sat a little deeper than I'd like. I like them pretty well flush. So when I run this next one, I'll feel not quite push as hard. And if you'll get an idea, there's a slight difference to this case than that last one I showed. That's just a matter of time. You kind of develop the feel for it. 9 more to go, and then we are on to powder. Sat, ready to roll. Again, we're reloading 357 Magnum. One of my favorite cartridges. Call this one the Cowboy Killers. I'm using these primarily in a lever action rifle. I've got a Marlin that I'm hand loading for. And I had a test batch of this I took out to the range last weekend, and it shot really well. Very accurate. So this is not my plinking ammo, this is actually hunting ammo. Small game, of course, nothing major. I think I could take down something slightly larger, but if I can kill a wild hog with this, I'll be happy. Last case after this one. So I'll go and show you again. This is before you size it. It's hard to tell, that one's relatively held its shape. You run it through the sizing die, bring it over here to the expander, and then I put my primer in, I'm bringing it back down. See if that's sat. So that is sized, expanded, and primed. So that step is done. We're done with these two die. Clean up as you go. So I'll take out my sizing die. Put it back. Take out my expander. Now I've got my seating die. My factory crimp die. I don't need to get those set yet because I've got another step. We're going to load up the hopper Again, I'm using a little bit older jug of Hodgdon HP 38 as my powder. I don't need a ton. I always put it a little extra just in case. So now that there's powder in the hopper, I get out my scale. Let's see if I can put this at an angle where you can see some of this. And I will take my tray, measured at 124.4 grains. And I know from my last load and from my book here, I want 6.2 grains of this powder. So get my scale zeroed out, narrow this down, see where I'm at. Small amount of powder there. A little low, that's 2.9 grains, so I'm going to back that out about 2.5, 3 almost turns. Try it again. That's a little better. 5.2. Again, we're shooting for 6.2. Should put me pretty close. I bet I shot over a little bit. A little too much. Let's see. 6.3. That will work. What I'll usually do is try and narrow it in, tighten this up a little bit, and measure it 1 or 2 more times, just to see if I'm getting consistent. 6.2. Feel pretty good about that. So now I'll put the top on, and it's as simple as me taking empty, putting it right into the throw. It's got a little spot in there, and if I can get the lighting just right, you'll see there is 6.2 grains of HP 38 in there. Now, good practice, I'll load up about 10 of these. I trust my equipment, but I'll double check after about every 10 rounds just to see if it's still throwing 6.2. And my favorite way to do that is I will take one of these empty cases here in a second. So for instance, my 11th case here, I'll take the empty, I'll put it on my scale. It by itself is 46.3 grains. I'll zero out my scale, throw the load. It's a little light, 6.1, but I can live with that. I'll even back this out a tiny bit. Measure another 0.0. .2. Perfect. So I feel comfortable moving on, just continuing to throw whatever my equipment puts out for me. I actually find these RCBS powder throws pretty darn accurate. You know, I really considered investing in one of those machines that trickles everything out at the perfect measurement, but it's kind of slow. In this case, I feel comfortable knowing I'm usually within a 1/10 of a grain. Again, I'll throw one more time. Zero the case out. This is my 21st case, sitting at 6.2. So we're good. This This way I'm moving a lot faster too. We're about to be done with the loading process. For all 30 of these cartridges. Boom, 30. Try not to handle them too much. You don't want to spill. You don't want anything getting in there. You definitely don't want to stop. This is part of the process where you want to continue moving forward now that the powder's in the cartridge, because you don't want anything getting in there. You don't want to forget and not load. I will clean up after myself here. Dump my excess powder so I don't forget what powder's in the hopper. Alright, put my stuff away. Take a sip. Next step, take one of these. Has powder in it. It's primed. It's ready to go. I've got my bullet. This is again a Speer 158 grain 38 cal 357 Magnum. Pop it in the top. I'll pull it out first. I'll run my case to the top. I'll run my seating die down until it touches the mouth of the case. And I'm going to back out my seating plug. These dies are built to allow you to seat and crimp in the same step. I just don't like to crimp with my seating die, and I've purchased these Lee factory crimp dies to do all my crimping. So I won't even use the crimp function of this, which is why I run it down until I feel the case mouth, but then I back it out so that I know I'm not overdoing it. So again, back it out a little bit. If I feel pressure, I don't want to overdo it to start. Got pretty close actually. See where that cantilever is. So I'm going to check my measurements with this caliper. We're going to see exactly where we're seated. 1.7 or 1.574 specs are right where I want them. I'm actually going to even back it out a tiny bit. I want them to be at 1.575, which is just a little bit below SAMI specs. So if you look in the book, it calls for the COL, which is cartridge overall length, to be 1.580 inches. I'm in just a hair under that. I know that's probably backwards, but that's 1.574. I'm going to try and run these at 1.575. I found that helped me with my accuracy. Now that I've got my length set, I'm going to run this up into my factory crimp die. It's got a light crimp on there, nothing crazy. Add a little more. And you'll see pretty good crimp on there actually. If you look at the rim of the cartridge, and I'll show you the before and after here in a second, but that is a completed Morian Munitions Cowboy Killer 357 Magnum. Great for your lever action. I'll take a handful of these and start to seat them ahead of time too. I find that helps me. Grab them out of here. Making a mess. Hold on. So I'll take a handful, starting at the back. I'll partially insert them in the cartridge, just to give me a little bit of a head start, so I don't have to grab them one at a time and do this. I have a handful like this and just get them in the case. And it speeds this next part up and protects a little bit from the actual powder falling out of the case. That's just a matter of grabbing them without spilling them here. Again, I tested this exact cartridge with these specs last weekend, and I really liked the way it shot from an accuracy standpoint. I'll share the ballistics too, but 357 is not really, you know, super crazy round. Pretty standardized. I will tell you, I was shooting these suppressed, and they sounded great. I was not wearing hearing protection, and it was not an issue for me. So even though they're supersonic, they just barely register. And if you have the right suppressor, it was totally fine. It wasn't whisper quiet like 38 Special can be, but it was quiet enough for me. Alright, almost ready. So now, what I'm going to do, get my caliper right where I want it. I'll go to 1.575. Lock it in. So I can do a quick measurement as we go. Then I'll back this out a tiny bit. Run it up into the seating die. Check my specs. Right on it. 1.575. Then I'll run it up into the crimping die. I'm good to go. 1.575. Then it's just a matter of following each step. Trusting your equipment to hold as measured. And while it is an investment, both in time and money, I've only been doing this for like a year and a half maybe. I think, yeah, maybe a year and a half. I'm no expert, but I feel like I can do this pretty darn easily. I don't think it saves me a ton of money. I mean, these, because I'm using reclaimed brass, are probably, I don't know, about 40 cents each in just component costs. You know, don't factor in your time and labor, right? Can't afford me. But if you try and go buy jacketed soft point 357 factory ammo right now, you're probably paying 70 cents to 80 cents, sometimes over $1 if you've got some really good stuff in mind per round. So if I'm getting it for less than half based on the components I'm using, and I can control every aspect of the process, how much powder goes into it, what my measurements are for my tolerances, it's not even about the money savings, it's about the control. And I get to shoot a lot more. That's fun. That's why I do this. And while I'll probably shoot a few of these at the range, I'm going to save some of these for actual treks through the woods. I like my lever action for that because it's a little lighter. Quick action as far as follow-up shots. I mean, I know I could roll around with an AR or something like that too, but there's something fun about a lever action. This is my 357 Magnum load. Again, I call it the Cowboy Killer. Great for lever action rifles. Put them in your cowboy guns. It'll totally work in a revolver as well, but it just depends what you're trying to do. I think this Speer bullet is a better hunting round than a self-defense round. Otherwise, I'd use something like these Hornady. I do make some of these as well. That is a jacketed hollow point, and you can really see the difference. If I can get the focus right, that's a soft point, nice and flat. That's the hollow point compared to it. Same grain weight, you know, same overall design, if you will. Actually, they shoot very similarly as far as ballistics go, and accuracy too, but they react just a little different. So I'm trying to save those jacketed hollow points for my revolver, my .357 snub nose, which I can't hit shit with. I mean, maybe if you're within 20 feet, but it's a 5-round capacity, 2-inch snub nose revolver, not really designed to be a sharpshooting item. So do any of y'all reload or are interested, obviously if you're still tuned in here, in getting into reloading? I feel like I can help a beginner pretty good. If you're an expert, you're probably watching me going, oh, you're doing that all wrong, oh gosh. But as long as you're safe and you're following specs that are legitimate, you're usually pretty good. And then just be careful, you know, pay attention to what you're doing. And if you haven't hit subscribe yet, please do. Go check out my other content. There's some actual shooting content, like lever action stuff. I'll post something probably tomorrow. Maybe not this ammo, but some of those hollow points. 5 more to go. Almost there. Every once in a while, I'll just double check my specs. But I'm loading the same case in each of these. So sure enough, it's good to go. Let me show you the difference of the case before I run it through crimping die. So pay real close attention. I'm trying to get a good angle. Look at the lip around the bullet and that cantilever. See how it's still pretty straight walled, going all the way up? Let's see, get it right in there. This camera hates to focus, doesn't it? But watch what happens after I run it through crimper. Take a look at those same lines. You can see it just crushes the edge of that case into, in this case, where the cantilever is sitting on the bullet. What that allows it to do is just grip the bullet, the case does. So as you're seating these, especially in something like lever action, where as I'm pulling the action, those cases are just bouncing off each other like this. If you don't have a crimp on there, I find that it's possible for your bullet to get pushed further and further into your case. So it messes with your seating depth. And while I don't think it causes a huge problem, I do think it messes with your accuracy a little bit. Here, again, for those just tuning in, there is a case prior to crimping. Run it through the crimper.